Hi, folks. It's CC here with That Game Place, and I'm happy to introduce one of my pals, one of my buddies from somewhere else, Splendor Dad. How's it going, my friend?
It's going pretty good. How you doing today, Culture?
I'm doing great. Why don't you tell people where you're at and why?
All right. Well, originally I am at Send an Art podcast. We do a show every Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, and we just recently started Ascendant Arcade, which is kind of an offshoot for all of our gaming content. And I put new stuff up there every day.
That's fantastic. By the way, that's good. That's good for the algorithm. So well done. But what's great about this is you brought this story to me, and it stacks on top of all the other studios that recently collapsed, like today, which we're going to have more videos of right up there. So check one of those out and have a good time. This Lone Echo developer of Ready at Dawn, right? Ready at Dawn is this company. They've reportedly been closed by Meta. And if you don't believe me, believe PC Gamer, because guess what? They wrote the story. You know what? You brought this to me, Slender. What do you want to say about this before we get started?
Well, there's a couple of interesting angles here. I was reading it, and the first thing that struck me was, oh, hey, Culture said we were going to get X number of studios shutting down this year. I wonder how close this puts him to it. If I remember correctly, this actually puts you over now.
It does actually for the
You
year.
lowballed your estimate.
I did. I needed to go bigger. I didn't realize there'd be more than 9 studios that were out of business. But this is actually written by somebody who's reputable, Andy Chalk over there at PC Gamer. I want to get into this article because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I want your commentary on it, Slender, because obviously you've been through it. But Ready at Dawn was a developer that developed a terrible game that cost you $60, cost The Order 1866. It was a PlayStation original and what do you call it? Exclusive. And they also developed the Lone Echo VR games. They've been reportedly closed by their parent company Meta. I didn't know they were associated with Meta, and it's too bad for them. But Android Central reported that the studio's closure comes as part of an effort to meet budget reductions. Reported in July at the company's Reality Labs VR division. Now, why is that so important there, Slender? I think you have some insight on that.
Well, and this kind of goes to the history of the company. The Order 1866 was a terrible, terrible game. 1866, 1886. Is that a typo?
No,
But
it was
either way,
18.
okay. Either way, the game was pretty poorly received, and it was kind of their first outing, kind of on their own. They were involved in a lot of old ports and like PSP games with IPs that didn't directly belong to them. Very specifically, some of the God of War titles on the PSP
Oh wow.
and Jack and Daxter. They had
Mhm.
some sort of title on the PSP for Jack and Daxter. Little things here and there. And then they got the Order 1866. It didn't go well. And I think from there, they tried to pivot into VR. Might have been a directive that when Meta picked them up, Meta has a VR headset that they're trying to push. So they wanted VR games. But I, in a tanking economy, you don't pivot to the most expensive gaming platform. It's not a smart move.
No, it probably isn't. Well, what's great about it is that when they did do all this pivoting and all that, they kind of leaned on this new idea, and so they really did move forward from the VR market to something that would do some other things, and they went to focus on their next project. So there really is no next project for them. The most recent release was Lone Echo 2, which came out in 2021. And the year after, that was the year after the studio was acquired by Meta. So Meta reportedly said the number isn't high enough to trigger California's worker adjustment notification. So it's less than 50 people, Slender. Less than 50 people. Um, that was not really a dedicated work staff. Maybe they transferred people out. I don't know. But working on VR titles is people intensive. So, in the words of Ron Burgundy, I don't believe you. Anyway, Meta's Reality Labs division has for years been bleeding money, which you were talking about. Why would they lean into this? I don't understand.
It was really big, like maybe 8 years ago. Like when the VR headsets, the Oculus Rift, and then the Oculus Quest. I think Steam was toying around with it. It
Oh,
was
yeah. Yeah, they had the Vive. Remember the Vive?
Yeah, it was a kitschy little fad. But everybody who plays games for real kind of knew like this is fun, it's cool, but it's never going to be the main
Well,
way we ingest video games. It's just not
it
there.
right, and I basically bought every single piece of tech for that type of thing. I really liked VR. I had an HTC Vive. I invested in the Valve Index. I invested in the Oculus bologna sausage. And a bunch of other like generic headsets just to like give you the same sense. And weirdly enough, I'm still back using two-dimensional monitors to play games because a it's uncomfortable and b
That's the big one right there.
There's but there aren't a lot of games to play. I mean, let's just be
Well,
honest about it, right?
but even if there are, like, I consider myself a bit of a hardcore, right? Like, on a Saturday, if I don't have anything on the calendar, nothing going on, I'll wake up, I'll have myself a cup of coffee, and I'll be gaming for the next 14 hours.
Ooh, well,
If
there
you're
you
trying to
go.
do that with a VR headset, you're gonna be motion sick,
Ugh,
vomiting on the floor, and
yeah,
dehydrated.
and you'll have a headache, and it's not a lot of fun. That's very, very, very much true. But this particular division for Meta has lost nearly 50 billion in the past 4 years. So,
It ain't
um,
cheap to make those games.
No, and shuttering one of the few game studios that seem to be able to do something interesting with VR. Um, is that going to turn everything around? I don't know. Um, and according to Mr. Chalk over there at PC Gamer, I'm going to say probably not. I agree with you, Mr. Chalk. If Chalk is your name.
I mean, you gotta give them credit too, though, right? Like, I'm gonna give them that. They were trying new things. They were making pivots. They didn't fall into the habits that some of the bigger game developers fall into, where it's just like, we'll just keep failing until we're not failing anymore. The problem is all those innovations, all those pivots, all those trying new things. You don't spend $50 on or $50 billion on something you don't know is gonna work. You
Oh,
spend
that.
like
Yeah.
2 million on that on those kind of projects and see how they pan out.
Well, I mean, once you have the equipment, which I think Meta probably has plenty of, and once you have the people, which it sounds like they just bought, this shouldn't cost you all that much to like move forward on a project and figure out if it's going to work or not. I don't know. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Like I said, I just think, especially when you're kind of getting experimental, and this part of the reason the industry is kind of on the verge of collapse right now is nobody's experimenting because experimenting is too risky when you're throwing around billions of dollars. But everybody wants something new. Like we're
Yeah.
all getting real tired of Assassin's Creed 486. Like nobody wants it.
Well, and they don't want it for a lot of reasons, but yes, you're 100% right there.
Well, not even getting into the political side of things,
No,
the
no, no, no,
messaging.
no. But well, yeah, and leaving that aside, I'll just say that really the whole reason for games is escapism. VR should have been the ultimate form of escapism, but it meant you had to deliver something that would be, worthy of spending the money it requires to invest in VR. I still don't think we've seen that game yet, and maybe we will, but I don't think it's anytime soon. And I'm going to give you the final word on this, Slender. What do you think about this studio? Its apocalyptic collapse, and what do you think about my number being so lowballed at this point in time?
We were talking about it before we started recording here, and I remember when you said 9, and I thought to myself, oh, it's going to be higher than that. We're definitely in double digits. So I mean, more blood for the blood god, I guess.
It's true, and I feel like I did play it a little bit safe. But on that note, what do you think, audience? Do you think that we're going to see even more studios crumble away? Because I'm going to tell you right now, The answer to that is yes, because I've got
Yes.
a couple more to talk about soon. And what do you think about this? A developer in Ready at Dawn who developed probably one of the worst PlayStation games ever made, the Order 1866, finding its way into the trash heap of studios that seem to be not only destroyed by bending their knee to the message, but also by just a complete lack of ability to create something that people will find engaging. And finally, do you think we should track the number of studios that are failing, or is that just me like trying to, you know, spike the ball after I score a touchdown? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section down below, and you know what? Check out Slender Dad over at Ascended Arcade because, well, I like those guys and they're doing a good job. On that note, as always, get your game on.